There is no controversy about my son.
I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Coe, the spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded, and is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment and signed a $4 billion deal to build the largest LNG port in the world.
So I think Joe Biden and the Biden family are compromised.
We've seen over the last 2 weeks, Joe Biden is a corrupt politician, and he's compromised, fully compromised.
This year has shown me so many eye-opening things. And with this laptop scandal, I can't, in good conscience, vote for Biden. I just could not. I did not. In 2016, I thought a dumb, misogynistic businessman was now our leader, and the world was over. I hated it. God, I don't know how to tell you how much I hated Trump. I don't. But you know what? You know what I just did? I voted for Trump!
Welcome. We're live in the War Room today on Capitol Hill. It's Wednesday, the 28th of October, the year of our Lord 2020. Next Tuesday is game day, but every day in the lead up to game day is a big day. More breaking news. We've got Tom Farnan joins us, the author of The Russia Lie. Of course, Raheem Kassam, Jack Maxey, and they've been grinding all night on new and breaking news. Episode 461, now with almost 17 million downloads. Of course, on the John Frederick Radio Network, on Real America's Voice. I want to give a hat tip to Rod Sig and Howard Diamond, great team over there, guys in Denver and now in Washington, doing an incredible job. Dish Channel 219, in Chicago, Channel 113. Newsmax TV, Chris Ruddy and the guys, 70 million homes. I'll get closer to this mic. GTV and G News has made this a global show with tens of millions of viewers every day. We're thankful to the team in GTV, G News, that are also breaking an enormous amount of news on this. We've got so much to go through the day in the details. We've got lots of breaking news we're going to get through. We're going to have Sam Faddis, former CIA officer, is also going to be joining us. He and Tom are going to be rotating in and out as they're both working on a number of situations or things that we're working on. Want everybody to go to hashtag War Room Pandemic. Also the live stream. We want your comments as you've joined this audience over the last week or so. This is the most powerful audience in all media, and here's why. We combine the power of the working class, of the deplorables, with the power of Lao Beijing. That is the working class, old 100 names of China. And we combine that on a show that has national and global reach. And we're very proud of that. And we try to, not waste your time on the kind of more entertainment aspects of talk radio, which I think is great. I'm a love talk radio. Been a Rush fan since he began, and everybody that kind of sprung off of Rush. But we do something very different here. The War Room is to give you tomorrow's news today. And I'm really proud of yesterday, Bill McGinley. Everything Bill McGinley, if you go back to that first hour, if you look at what happened overnight in the courts yesterday, it's everything McGinley's talking about. Lawfare is here, ladies and gentlemen, and we're hurtling towards that next Tuesday. And I think the way we've positioned this is very correct. One thing that is pretty astounding, though, is the developments that come off. And I think that this is all you want to say. Remember, don't say mainstream media anymore. It is the information arm. It's the information warfare department of the globalist. Because right now, this stunning revelations last night by Tucker Carlson, who I thought sat in for every American, the way he did that. And you could see the look of shock on his face, right? Not even understanding the story, because the story is, for us, it's very simple because we cover this, for a living. And we know the CCP. The reason I was brought into the hard drive thing was actually to make sure that they could understand the level of what the CEFC was. And it was so great that we have the audio, and we'll play it in a second, that Raheem Kassam dug up, because CEFC, China Energy Funding Corporation, and China Energy are front operations for Chinese intelligence. It's a known fact. Hunter admitted that yesterday. And then Raheem Kassam's got breaking story. Well, I want to turn to you because we've got so much breaking news we're going to get in today. of the research we've been doing, people we've been talking to, more affidavits coming. I want to go to the breaking news, particularly on Hunter Biden and his relationship with Chinese intelligence, which he admitted yesterday, right? Mr. Raheem Kassam?
Yeah, the confessional tape broke the internet yesterday, and we've got more as a follow-up to that coming out very shortly. I tweeted a moment ago. I said to people, because we Tom and I were looking through some of this stuff last night as the Bobulinski interview was going on, because Bobulinski was talking about things that perhaps we hadn't searched on the drive yet, so it gave us some extra keywords, some extra search terms to factor into our investigations. And Thomas and I were looking through this, and he mentioned last night this guy Kevin Dong, right? So I thought, okay, we haven't really looked through the Kevin Dong stuff. Look for Kevin Dong, and the first thing that comes up for us is Jim Biden emailing with Mervyn Yan, Kevin Dong, and Hunter Biden the wiring instructions for Dr. Ho's representation funds are as follows, and it lists the bank and the ABA routing number and the account number, and the memo line, the purpose of, is Dr. Patrick Ho Chi Ping representation. That is who Hunter was referring to in the voice memo we played yesterday. We played it at the top of the show as well, as the effing spy chief of China. This is the wiring instructions. Patrick Ho. So that's one of the things.
Just real quickly, Kevin Dong, I forget his Chinese name. That's his English name. Kevin Dong is also a senior intelligence officer of CCP. There's no doubt about that. That he's a CCP, another intelligence operative that was assigned to the Biden family, and he is actually the funding partner to set up the structure for Hudson 3 West, which Hudson 3 West is going to be a whole nother thing. Here's the thing to just keep in mind. Every day you're going to hear new terms. We try to get you the nomenclature. We try to then walk you through process. We then try to walk you through critical path. So you can kind of in your mind get a mental map. What we're trying to do for you is get a mental map that you can then, other information comes in and you can put it into that framework of what it's about. Many different terms. Here's one thing we can say. The business model is very simple. The business model is about monetizing access to Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden was first chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, when Tiger Yang, the senior vice premier for foreign affairs, and a true enemy of the United States. I've dealt with this guy one-on-one many times. A true enemy of the United States and the Chinese people. They started to groom Biden even in those days. And then in his vice presidential year, because of all the emails that are coming out, we're going to have Matthew Tierman on in the second hour of the show, talk about all the coming out that they've been involved in this since 2010, 2011. Jack Maxey's doing an investigation, shows it goes back 12 years, may even start. As soon as the Obama administration started, they started putting together partnerships, etc. You're going to hear a bunch of different names. Just remember, when you hear Chairman Yi, that's Yi, Jingming, Chairman Yi, you hear the name Patrick Ho, or you hear the name Kevin Dong, you're talking about senior-level Chinese intelligence operatives, intelligence officers. Their job is to funnel cash, Lao Beijing, the slave labor of China, is to take their cash, launder it through the United States, and buy political influence, by economic influence on Wall Street, corporate influence in corporations, and to then basically get political influence. One thing you're going to see in this entire basis, and I'm calling for it today. Remember, I was the first person to call for Wray to be fired. And what's the White House now leaking? Wray's going to be fired, right? He's going to be fired the evening of November 3rd or the next day. He knows it. He's fired. He's gone, right? I actually am an advocate. He should be fired this morning, and particularly with these revelations coming out about Bobulinski. Why the FBI interviewed Bobulinski on Friday. I want to know why Bobulinski even had time to go back home. It should have been 72 hours. This shouldn't just be coming in. The FBI is not on top of this, and Wray should be fired. I'm also calling for, I think what the President of the United States, not the President of the United States, but William Barr needs to do today. He needs to step it up into a microphone at the Justice Department. He needs to say, I've appointed a special counsel, right? You get one of the toughest prosecutors in the country. Maybe Rudy Giuliani. He's the president's counsel, but I think he'd make himself available. You get one of the toughest prosecutors out there. There should be a special counsel, and that'll go through November 3rd. So win, lose, or draw, right? We're going to already start with a massive investigation. This has to happen. I got to tell you, hear things like Hudson 3 West. It's another operation they've got in the United States to launder money through and to get money for him. Kevin Dong, Chinese intelligence officer. You've got Patrick Ho and Raheem breaks. Yesterday, you hear on our show and on National Pulse, Raheem pulled out of the audio where Hunter Biden sitting there talking to a guy, and it's Hunter Biden that identifies Patrick Ho as the spy chief of China. He's not actually the spy chief, but in Hunter's world, he was the spy chief.
Right.
This is the key. He is the guy that interlocks Chinese intelligence, CCP intelligence, to the Biden family. In his universe, in his little crack-addled universe, he is the spy chief, right? Chairman Yee's the chairman, okay? Kevin Dong's another one. Then today, Raheem Kassam just puts up a moment ago on Twitter, and now you're going to have the whole story in the National Pulse. I'm glad your traffic's on fire.
Thank you.
Because it's well-deserved. Natalie Winters. Hope Natalie gets it. Farnham and Kassam are drafting off they're taking the glory. Skimming off the cream, and poor Natalie's in the engine room. I know it is, Natalie. I was like that for many years.
I remember how it was as well.
No, but now you've put up a thing where you got a wire transfer.
Yeah.
And your headline's perfect. A wire transfer from the spy chief. This is the tell of how radioactive this is, gentlemen. They know how radioactive it is. So instead of Jack Maxey and Noah and Sam Faddis and the other team we got crowdsourcing this, and everybody at G News and GTV, guys at Revolver, National Pulse, you got teams out there that are all over this thing, cranking. You would think the mainstream media, why are they not doing it? They understand that young woman on that plane, and for the radio audience, she was full goth. She had like 9 colors to the hair, some of them not found in nature. She had a nose ring, and she looked perfectly nice. She was like a nice young woman, but she's not your typical, pearl-clutching Republican. And she's sitting there and goes, I hate Donald Trump. I thought it was the end of the world as we know it. I don't like Donald Trump. He's a misogynist. I just vote, and she's got a little vote button. She goes, I just voted for Joe Biden. I can't take the laptop. They understand they're going to run at the clock. He's in hiding again today. And yesterday, they got to go down to Warm Springs, Georgia, to be symbolic with the President Roosevelt. That's where President Roosevelt passed away, and that's where he used to go for the polio, for the cure, for the springs. They sent him down there. Jack, they've got, and Trump calls them the nice rings. They got the nice rings painted. There's got to be 30 chairs. 2/3 of them are full. He can't fill 30 chairs. You can't let this. He's in hiding. Here's why he's in hiding. He can't take Sam Faddis and Jack Maxey and Tom Farnan and Raheem Kassam and Natalie Winters and the team at Revolver and the team at G News and the team at GTV asking pointed questions. Right? And Bo Belinsky last night, I think, laid it out, and I think Tucker did such an amazing job because Tucker was like every man. He was just sitting there. We're going to have our out music with Save Hong Kong, our Fight for Hong Kong with Miles Grow. I love this. By the way, the feedback we got playing the whole video at the end of it was amazing. People love this.
We saw that Madeline Pels liked it as well.
Oh, what
she was heckling us over.
What did she say?
She was
Madeline,
she's like, Miles is now a video making music videos, and Steve's there dancing like a puppet.
You can't see the strings? Okay, we're going to turn Madeline. Madeline, you've been so dead wrong. Oh, this is all phony. It's not happening. Madeline, if it's so phony, where's Joe Biden taking questions? Where's Joe Biden? My son did nothing wrong. His son admits he's in business with Chinese Communist Party spy chief, and he gets wire transfer from him. If you read the National Pulse, Madeline. We're going to be back in 1 second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Yeah. And then after that, I went over to the Peninsula Hotel, and I sat with Jim Biden for 2 hours, where Jim Biden walked through his history and his own words, stating all the work and effort he did to get Joe Biden elected initially in Delaware, and then through the family history and the role that he had played in it. And in that meeting, remember, I'm the son of a naval officer. I'm a naval officer, was a naval officer myself. And because I held a Q clearance, which is the equivalent of a top secret clearance, we're audited every year. So If you receive a gift, I think the barrier was $25. Anything larger than $25, we had to disclose it to the government, because obviously anybody with the clearance, the government is watching closely that they're not influenced by the Russians, the Iranians, the Chinese, and stuff like that. So as I was listening to Jim walk through this, I have a big heart. If you talk to anybody who knows me, they would weigh in on that. I'm a kind person, and I'm thinking about the Biden family. Like, how are they doing this? I know Joe decided not to run in 2016, but what if he ran in the future? Aren't they taking political risk or headline risk? And I remember looking at Jim Biden and saying, how are you guys getting away with this? Like, aren't you concerned? And he looked at me and he laughed a little bit and said, plausible deniability.
You said that out loud?
Yes, he said it directly to me, one-on-one in a cabana at the Peninsula Hotel after about a hour and a half, 2-hour meeting, with me asking out of concern, how are you guys doing this? Aren't you concerned that you're going to put your brother's future presidential campaign at risk? The Chinese, the stuff that you guys have been doing already in 2015 and 2016 around the world. And I just can almost picture his face where he sort of chuckles and says, plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability. You might remember that term from Watergate. That's what the Watergate guys came up with. Plausible deniability means when you did it, but you can do it, you can kind of have a couple of moves that keep your fingerprints totally off it, so you can do illegal and bad stuff, but not get actually blamed for it. Jack Maxey, by the way, we got to teach Tom Farnan the rules of the war room. Just jump in on the mic. Fight for the mic. You're not going to get. But Jack Maxey got a scalp last night. Jack Maxey got a scalp about plausible deniability. The rats are leaving the ship. What happened last night?
Well, remember Eudora, this company out in St. Louis that we talked about that is key to this whole thing. Jeff Cooper, who has been cooperating with Hunter for years and years. In fact, their first deal was set up in, I believe, 2010. First thing they cut was a contract with Amtrak, Teamsters, Zimbabwe. They've been around the world. They set up, Cooper was deeply involved in all the Chinese things, but with an opaque kind of firewall between them. But Eudora Global took their website down last night.
Yeah, they're hiding.
And they've got an American flag on it now that says, "See you after the election." I find that a bit offensive because that flag should be the flag of Communist China.
Oh. The reason after the election, they're hiding. Don't Jeff Cooper does not want to answer any questions. Jeff, you got an open invitation. Come on here. We got about 1,000.
Ocho Rio Gaming, Jeff, we're coming.
It'd be a deposition. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I drove in yesterday from Pittsburgh to work with Raheem, and I got to say, in Pittsburgh, he's running as Lunch Bucket Joe, and that's the brand. And all of this defies the brand, and that's why they need to bury it.
Yeah.
The tape that the National Pulse released yesterday was just amazing. The things that Hunter Biden was saying. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner.
Yeah, that was Chairman Yee. Yeah.
That ends Lunch Bucket Joe, and that's why they have to keep this buried.
Yeah, it's Rudy Giuliani so subtly says that Yee is at the bottom of the Yangtze River. Yee is. Miles Gross said this. This was a while back. Remember, Miles Gross has been talking about Chinese Energy Funding Corporation for a long time. He said this is like H&A. It's like Anbon Insurance Company. These are front organizations for the Chinese Communist Party, the PLA, and the Ministry of State Security. This is how they capture. This is basically elite capture. That's the term you want to use, elite capture. They come in, capture the elites. And it's the British East India Company model, right? Capture the elites, then you control the company.
And let me say one other thing. They're trying to bury this by saying we can't say that this is true. It's Russian disinformation. I am a 30-year practicing lawyer. I went and looked at that laptop yesterday. That evidence is some of the highest quality and most reliable evidence I've ever seen. It's self-authenticating under Rule 902 of the Federal Rules.
What do you mean by that?
It means if you made an objection in a courtroom that this is hearsay or something, you could say these are business records and they are self-authenticating. This is incredibly reliable evidence. It's emails from an abandoned laptop. If I'm in a lawsuit and I get the other side's laptop and I can look at their emails, I am high-fiving my client, my co-counsel, because the evidence is reliable. It is the worst way to not cover this. To say, as Leslie Stahl does, it's not verified. It is verified.
And they haven't denied one. There's not been one. In fact, what they're doing, instead of Jeff Cooper coming out and saying, those are not my emails, this is Russian disinformation, he's taking down his website. They're going to the mattresses. What they're doing is in hiding. Joe Biden's off the campaign trail. Tom, you're been doing this for 30 years. Do you think this raises to the level that they ought to put a special prosecutor on this?
Yes. I think, Trump has to do whatever is politically advantageous now in advance of the election. But certainly, this should be prosecuted, if not by the Justice Department.
Well, that's the problem. If it's politically advantageous, then he can't do it. So you can't do that. Trump's got to be. He's the chief magistrate of the United States. He's got to be even-handed in that. So tell me, how can you then say? And Trump can't order a special prosecutor. That can only come from the DOJ. How does that get? How do you get into that if you're saying it's politically advantageous?
He's got 3 days to the election. He has to concentrate on the election. People have to know this, and however they can get it out there into the public sphere, it will affect the election. It does destroy the.
That's not the question I got. The question was, should there be a special prosecutor? It's separate from the forcing function of, how do you get this information out? How do you do that? Black or white, is there enough evidence here, as you see as an attorney, to deem a special prosecutor should be appointed?
Yes.
And why?
Because Joe Biden was asked about this. This is relevant. And he was asked about his family's connections. And he denied both knowledge and involvement. In the last week, we have this reliable evidence that says he has both knowledge and involvement. So everybody should be asking the question, what is his knowledge and what is his involvement? If he is peddling influence for money, and if that's how the Biden family makes all this money, someone should know about it. I think in Washington, D.C., though, there's a reason to keep this covered because I don't think only Joe Biden's doing it. Yeah. I think a lot of people are doing it.
I was on WMAL this morning talking about this as well, and credit to them, the local D.C. radio station, for covering this and for playing that entire Hunter clip. But I said it's bigger than just the corruption. It's the compromise.
It's compromise.
It's the compromise. The special prosecutor needs to look at if the next potential president of the United States is compromised from a national security perspective. And I would argue, given the fact that there's wiring instructions between Hunter Biden and the effing spy chief of China, as he puts it, that's compromise.
And there are multiple wires between Jeff Cooper and to Hunter Biden direct for various amounts that seem to be disconnected to anything other than Hunter's needs at that
Okay, but
moment.
how does that tie back into compromise? You're chasing rabbits on me again. No, seriously, how does that tie back into compromise?
Well, because we
You're
have
fixated.
we have a contract.
Jeff Cooper.
We have a contract between Jeff Cooper, Eudora, Eric Schwerin, and Hunter Biden from 2010, where they share the profits from anything that Eudora gets done with the influence of Hunter. 25%.
Out of China, out of CCP.
Out of anything that's done with Eudora. Eudora is a global criminal enterprise. Look up Ocho Rio Gaming in Latin America, and there are going to be several politicians at the top of the heap.
But here's the point. Here's the point. And I just want to make sure we understand this. This is, by the way, no fighting in the war room. But here's the thing. You have many issues involved here. And somehow what is important, I think, for President Trump is obviously the legal, and we know that Washington is a very corrupt place. There's corruption going on all the time. Now you're talking about actually being compromised. That means that your corruption is actually compromising you from a national security point of view. The young woman up there shows you the power of this information if properly presented, right? The corruption part of it is so big and so overwhelming and is going to have to take many different modalities to go through. Well, that's why I think for our moment in time, you got to type. That's the power of what Raheem came up out of the audio is very clear, right? You have Hunter Biden. It's his voice. He's talking to someone, and he's going through what his relationships are, and he has two damning revelations. Number one, or the New York Times and Southern District of New York, all that are kind of damning revelations, but he has two majors. Number one, he knows that Patrick Ho is an intelligence officer and is actually telling somebody about it. He's not trying to hide it. He's telling the chief, head of the spy, and he's talking about Yi, and he's talking about Yi's influence, power, and money in making things happen, both of whom he is in business with. Later, this is one of the powers of Bobulinski's last night. When Tony Bobulinski realized he's being double dealt, he calls Hunter, and what Hunter tells him, oh, By the way, I'm now the reason I'm working on this outside of our partnership. I'm the personal attorney. I'm a personal attorney to Chairman Yee. Yeah. That means he knowingly, and that engagement letter, go back to the original New York Post story. That engagement letter is signed by Patrick Ho, the head of the spies. You've got a wire transfer now, so you have a very thing of the corruption is directly tied to their engagement with Chinese intelligence. That's compromise. That means you can't be commander-in-chief, right? The other stuff's going to be very important. And by the way, that's why special prosecutor.
But one of the things I think of the special prosecutor, the regulators, the banking regulators should get involved. You have the ability to shut down these accounts. We've seen this Bohai Harvest thing. Now they're referencing multiple partnerships we didn't even know existed.
Jack Maxey is going to go today in front of the SEC and start a hunger strike.
Hey,
he's going to be
whistleblower 10% because this is Madoff style.
Everybody in there. Jack Maxey makes a very compelling case. Remember, the whistleblowers you get a 10% vig. Okay, there could be billions. I got a new way. You like that?
Yeah, can we fund the?
Yeah. Hold on. We're gonna come back in a second.
Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room. Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
The Chinese and CFC never viewed me. I'm insignificant and irrelevant in this discussion. To them, it was always the Biden family. It wasn't Hunter Biden. It wasn't Jim Biden. It was the Biden family, who's obviously led and operated by Joe Biden. And in a document that you guys have, and I think it's been provided to the world, the Chinese referenced that because of their trust in the Biden family, that Chairman Yee and Director Zhang are excited about moving forward in this. And in that document, they reference loaning $5 million to the BD family.
Right.
The BD family is the Biden family. And notice they didn't say we're loaning that money to Oneida Holdings, or we're loaning that money to Tony Bobolinsky, or we're loaning that money to James Gilliard or Rob Walker. They, once again, not a document generated by me, a document generated by CFC, that they're loaning that money to the Biden family. What are the
Okay, this is going to come down to today, the Washington Post, I think, ABC, Washington Post comes out with a poll in Wisconsin, says Trump is 17 points down. But if you look at the crosstabs on it, it's totally skewed. This is a suppression poll. I think Wisconsin could be very close. And here's the important thing. Tom Farnan said it earlier about he runs his Lunch Pail Joe, right? In heavily Catholic Pennsylvania and heavily Catholic Wisconsin, this is going to be an issue. And there's 6 days to get this out. A lot of people there are going to vote on game day or close to game day. There's all the opportunity in the world. It doesn't need to be done by the mainstream media. It doesn't need to be done by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. It needs to be done by you, the audience. What you need to do is become a force multiplier. Just push out the information all day long that's coming up on National Pulse, coming up on our site. The clips we put out from the day for the show, Revolver, there's so many sites out there, Gateway Pundit, there's so many people out there hitting this story nonstop. Just go to your favorite site, get your information, push it out. It's going to get to somebody. It's going to get to that young woman. It's going to get to that young woman who hates Trump, thinks he's a misogynist, right? At the end of the world when he's voting at 16, she's proud. She has her I Just Voted sticker, and she just voted for Donald J. Trump. Why does she vote for Donald J. Trump? She can't take it anymore. The laptop from hell has driven her over the edge. It's going to drive a lot of people over the edge. It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. You hold Georgia, you hold North Carolina, you hold Arizona, and you bring in either Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, President Trump is going to get another term. And so that's what it's going to come down to. And remember, the Trump campaign right now, God bless them, are running on fumes. So this has to be the deplorables going to have to put their shoulder to the wheel. Particular shout out to the Bernie Sanders bros, the populists, the economic nationalists of Bernie Sanders. Number one, you should be ashamed of your guy. This should not have been going on in the last days, the closing days of the election. This information was all out there. These partnerships were all out there. It was an open secret that the Bidens were in business with the Chinese Communist Party. It's an open secret they've been all over. As Jack Maxey's now got so much information on this hard drive of all this nefarious activity. What they're trying to do is basically, whether it's Amtrak or whether it's the World Food Hunger thing he sits on the board on, anytime they're associated with a government entity, they're trying to monetize access to that entity. This is and so remember, there are no conspiracies. This is the way the system works. This is the way the system works. This is why Gladhander, like Joe Biden, everybody realizes he's not particularly bright. Remember when they made the American version of what's the great show?
House of Cards.
House of Cards. It was British first. When they made the American version, they had to get it to more American type characters, right? The vice president in that first season was predicated, a guy from Pennsylvania, a guy who was not particularly sharp, that always wanted to be president. Remember, he sat in the Oval Office, sat at the desk. That guy is predicated on Joe Biden. They realized in the Obama administration.
Yeah, and you know who Doug Stamper, who's the chief of staff.
Yes.
The bludgeoner.
Yes.
That's Jeff Cooper.
Is that based on Jeff Cooper?
Well, I'm just saying.
Are you saying?
See, I stole
that's
that
a
from
co-host. No, you just made Jack a bigger hit. That's Jeff
Well,
Cooper.
and also, if you guys want another TV reference, Ocho Gaming International, that's the Ozarks when they get the casino.
Yes, 100%.
All in Latin America. Isn't it
Yeah,
weird? Isn't
yeah,
there
fun.
some money laundering
Yeah, I think
that goes on down
maybe,
there?
Hold on,
Peru,
maybe a
places
peso.
like that?
Maybe
No
a peso.
wonder they put the Obamas on the Netflix board. They're giving them how to make these shows.
Let's talk about we got more breaking news. Raheem's got a huge story coming up. Jack, you've put something up on that National Post is going to try to get, but you've tweeted out something that's got it's internet's blowing
We
up.
tweeted out the first couple pages. Now, what's interesting is
of what? Tell our audience what it is.
It is Bohai Harvest RST Shanghai Equity
What is
Investment.
What is Bohai Harvest? Why do
Bohai
people
Harvest is this private equity fund that they're all invested in. Now, once you
This is the $1.5 billion one.
Well, it could be much more than that,
Okay.
Steve, because once you get into the document, they literally have maybe
Well, no, I know the Bank of China.
100 different shell companies
Yeah, but
associated
I'm
with
saying the
Bohai.
Bank of China. This is the one in 13 when he goes over. This is
Yeah.
the one that the Bank of China puts the $1.5 billion in. They have other investors
This
too.
is the
right?
group that bought the Hanson Automotive that was the directed purchase by the Chinese Communist Party using Hunter Biden et al. To get their hands on an American automotive company with technology, with military applications. This was done. That was the celebratory document. Now, one of the things that I think is very important here, recently you've had George Mazzarella's, the attorney, claim that, he knew nothing about this, nada. You have Schwerin saying that in that email from the other day where Hunter Biden slams him and says he has nothing to do with my companies, he doesn't know anything about my myriad of shell companies, etc. Now, they've got a little bit of right as you walk into this document, follow-up issues from previous board meeting. A, compensation committee member and supervisor. Mr. James Bulger has been nominated and appointed as a member of the company's compensation committee to replace Devin Archer. How convenient, Steve. Current committee members consist of James Bulger, Andy Liu, Wang Jun, and Mr. Eric Schwerin tendered his resignation as the company's supervisor.
Okay, so people
on
are at
September
home and got to
24th.
keep a scorecard. Why do all these people matter? Cut to the chase. Why do they matter?
Because Eric Schwerin was a license holder for Rosemont Seneca,
And why
which
is
is
that-
a broker-dealer and covered by the SEC. Same for Bulger's Burnham Management. And
Okay,
if
why-
none of this has been revealed to investors,
got it.
they need to shut down bank accounts this afternoon.
Okay, and you're saying that you've got banking regulations here, you got SEC violations here.
Well,
you've got,
if Bulger and Archer and all these guys were lent money from the GP to represent their skin in the game, and that was not divulged to their institutional clients, which I'm pretty sure it wasn't, then that means that they have committed a fraud, whether the client earned money or lost money.
You're absolutely correct. That is the technical issue. The broader, pull the camera back for 1 minute. Here's what you have on a continual basis, and correct me if I'm wrong. You have the Chinese Communist Party is essentially the one lending them the money, and they keep extending the loans. So it's just a payoff. The
Right.
loans are never going to get paid. They're never going to have to pay their loans back, or they'll pay it back when they make profits off of some deal that CCP finances for. My point is, they are literally owned by the Chinese Communist Party. What this proves, and what the Bohai documents talk to, and if you're not a technical person, you don't work on Wall Street, it's still worth flowing through there because you're going to start to get the names. Schwerin, Bulger, who's Whitey Bulger's nephew, right? You'll start to get the names, etc. This now starts to put reality, because remember, Joe Biden's sitting there saying, my family's never that's all a lie. Everything Peter Schweitzer said in Secret Empires, when Peter Schweitzer first brings up the fact that Bank of China is funding this Bohai. Also, one thing to remember, audience, the Bank of China is very different than the Bank of England. The Bank of China is essentially the Federal Reserve. It's the National Bank of China. Now, unlike the Bank of England and unlike the Federal Reserve, it does not report to it's not independent. In fact, the Bank of China doesn't actually report to a government. The Bank of China reports to, guess what? A political party. It reports to the Chinese Communist Party. It is the bank of the CCP. It's the bank of the Chinese Communist Party. That is why companies like Bannon Insurance Company, companies like H&A, companies like CEFC are essentially creatures. What they are is extensions of the Bank of China in the central control of the money. So here's how the system works. Lao Beijing works as slave laborers for Apple and for Nike and for all the American corporations, right? And they get the high margins, high profit margin because you're not paying for labor, because you're not paying a decent, fair living wage to American workers. That has higher stock price, okay, and the more cash is generated. They have these state-owned industries. The CCP skimming it the entire time, taking their profits off of this. That cash is then laundered back into the West. This is why they're the wealthy. The five families that control the Chinese Communist Party, right, are the five wealthiest families in the world. They're much more wealthy than the Gulf Emirates. They're much more wealthy than the Saudis and the UAE. Everybody, we think Kuwait and Bahrain, everybody's got the big money. No. The big money is the five families. From the Long March, it's the same five families. They own the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party owns the state of China. The state of China owns the Chinese people. Okay? There's no land reform. There's no democracy. There's no rule of law. You don't get a say-so. In that, they need partners, and this is how globalization works. This is why Xi goes to the Davos 2 days before Trump and gives that speech. The globalization process works for the City of London and for Wall Street and for the corporations. If you think for a second we're losing $600 billion a year in intellectual property, Joe Biden negotiates a deal, no more cyber intrusions. If you think we're losing $600 billion a year, and NPR does a special and it goes out to the companies that are being ripped off the most, not one company will come forward and be on air and talk about that, right? That's because a lot of these companies are involved in it, right? Looking the other way for their Chinese partners to get access to the Chinese market, access to the now capital in China, okay? This is the way the globalization system works. The railhead is China, right? It's a network effect, and this is why they want to break the nation state. They want to break the Westphalian system. This is why Trump's speech 48 hours after Xi's was it was called the American Carnage speech, but it was a defense of the nation state. And it's saying we've allowed our elites to have managed decline, but this populist movement, this nationalist movement, this movement of the deplorables, the reason Hillary Clinton was so dismissive of you in that cocktail party with the swells back in September of 2016 when she mocked and ridiculed, didn't think she was being recorded, working class people. That is why Lao Beijing, right, the slave labor of China, have because they are slave laborers, the CCP has forced, and they've exported that deflation. They've exported that overcapacity. It's the reason everybody else, all other working people in the world, are serfs. And Bernie Sanders, this is why you haven't come to grips with the central problem, okay? And not only that, you're too big. I guess I can't call you a pussy, can I? To say that you're too much of a wimp. You're too much of a wimp. Take the binds on. It is an outrage. Every young person like that young woman out there that would consider voting for Joe Biden, we're not here to tell you how to vote. We're here to give you information to make your own decision as an adult. But what I would beseech you in the days or hours before you actually pull the trigger, just go online and look at these stories, listen for your own ears. Hear what from their own words. See who they're in bed with. Read the documents that Jack Maxey and Sam Faddis, Tom Farnan and Raheem Kassam and others are putting up all day long. With your own eyes. With your own eyes, look, before you make that decision.
Also, we're reported by producer Dan, Ocho Gaming has taken down all of their public websites, too.
Ocho Gaming, I tell you, Jack Maxey's getting scalp after scalp after scalp. They're only taking it down because they're trying to hide. They're putting a lid on every associate with the Biden crime syndicate.
And the networks in Latin America are working.
It goes
We're
to
going
the
to get talk from
same
them.
page The other one
The American
redirects
flag.
the American flag see you after the election.
Breaking news on National Pulse.
Should be the CCP flag, people, and this will all be proven. These people are traitors to our way of life. They have put the safety of 330 million American citizens at risk.
In honor of Madeline Peltz, we're going out with Miles Guo. Fight for Hong Kong.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
All right, I want to welcome everybody back to the War Room here on Wednesday, October the 28th, year of our Lord 2020. I want to start off by thanking and welcoming the new audience here, whether you're in the YouTube live chat, the Facebook live chat, whether you're a new subscriber to the podcast. It's all free. Make sure you go and get it and download it everywhere. Leave a review, like it, share it, so that the audience can expand more and more between now and the election. It is the most critical thing you can do because, let's face it, there are so very few other news organizations out there who are bringing you this information like this in long form and walking you through it line by line and breaking stories day by day on this stuff. Jack Maxey every single day. Inside all of these documents, he's got you're going to tweet this one out soon, Jack, so people can see for themselves the things we didn't know about BHR.
This is the Bohai capital that Joe Biden says doesn't exist. My son did nothing wrong, and now we got the documents.
And we're getting a lot of...
We have the receipts.
They have multiple shell companies associated with Bohai Harvest all around the world. I mean, they've got half a dozen in the Cayman Islands. This is, to me, all frauds share a similarity.
Yeah. So in an hour or so, we're going to be dropping a news story that Tom and I found last night talking about CEFC. This was the original New York Post reporting on the Biden links to
CEFC's China Energy, this CCP, Chinese Communist Party front operation energy company, correct? It's now in bankruptcy in China.
And let's just be very clear about something. Greed will get you caught. And these emails show Hunter Biden's greed, what he was trying to buy, what he was trying to expense to the company, and how they were pushing back against him. Some really, really interesting emails between the four people here: Hunter Biden, Gong Wen or Kevin Dong,
another CCP intelligence operative,
Mervyn Yan, and of course Uncle Jim Biden. I just want one more thing before
Jim Biden's the brains of the operation, by the way. He's the one that sets it up. Hunter's just
why they're getting caught.
Hunter is just the new business guy. He's drinking what the client's drinking,
right?
Or in some cases, smoking what the client's smoking, right?
Snorting what the client's snorting.
Snorting what the client's snorting. By the way, Daily Mail reports that young Master Hunter is having a tough time of it, and actually he and his wife had some words on the day of the New York Post story, or the second day of the New York Post story, and they related it back to Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani and the hard drive. I want to thank Daily Mail for that. And it drove poor Hunter out of his house, and he went to Pacific Palisades, which is a lovely area to where Ronald Reagan lived in New York, so where Tom Hanks lives. A lot of the celebrities who like more of the upper middle class lifestyle. It's not Holmby Hills or it's not Beverly Hills. It's for people that still aspire to a middle class lifestyle. People try to be low key there. But Hunter went up, and there was reported a $2,300 a night rental, $2,300 a night, where he would engage in cocaine fueled orgies. Right. I'm just quoting from the Daily Mail. Right. But that he had worked it out and was back with his wife, and she was not going to take his other young son away and not take off.
Well, apparently she was quite upset, and all of her friends were telling her that she should go with the baby and go back to South Africa to be with her family. It's apparently a very nice family. Ma'am, you should take your friend's advice and get out of town.
By the way, getting a lot of...
See, Jack Maxey gives medical advice. He gives medical advice. He gives financial advice. And now he's giving marital counseling. I'm having a session with Jack later in the day, being 0 for 3 myself. I'm actually being 0 for 3 myself. I'm booking... Hey, Vish, can you book a time with Jack at like about 4 o'clock?
Also, I don't mean to put this too harshly.
But you will.
The presidency of the United States at stake.
Yes.
Many of the people who are disappearing in China, like Ho and Yin and all these guys who sleep with the fishes, are they that way because they failed in their jobs? How did they fail in their jobs? They could not control Hunter. Hunter is such a disaster. He could bring down the CCP. because he's such a jackass.
That's the point here. Yep.
I think the way that this helps Trump right now is he's got to pull that lunch bucket Joe mask off of Joe Biden and Pennsylvania. And this stuff helps him to do that. He can't get too much into the weeds. I think he should and does avoid Hunter substance abuse because a lot of people in Pennsylvania have their own experience with that. But this idea of, being in business with China and making money from China completely defies and ends the whole
narrative.
Yeah,
of the lunchback drug. The only reason of the drug use is how did the Secret Service, how did the intelligence agencies, how did Comey, how did the FBI, how did all of these people look the other way, knowing he had such a massive drug problem, not just getting the Navy, but now traveling to China and being in business with Chinese intelligence assets. The CIA and the FBI knew that. There's no doubt they know who these guys are, right? They know they're the guys that picked up Patrick Ho Patrick Ho was picked up. Remember, he was picked up for corruption of funneling cash money to dictators in sub-Saharan Africa, right? Totally this is the Chinese One Belt One Road movement into sub-Saharan Africa with, guess what? CEFC being one of those arms, like H&A, Anbon Insurance. CEFC were the operational arms of One Belt One Road, which is, their geopolitical effort to control the Eurasian landmass, then get into the Caribbean, Latin America, and sub-Saharan Africa, asset rich. Got about a minute, Raheem. Tom, why don't you finish up with this? You got anything else? That was a brilliant insight.
Well, a man who claims mine worker heritage for his campaign but is banking off of China is losing that vote. But you have to skillfully communicate that to the people in Pennsylvania.
So how do you skillfully communicate that? You've got a guy that's considered the best mass communicator ever, Donald Trump. How does he do it? Without being too heavy-handed?
I think he's got to stay away from the Hunter and the drugs. I think he has to stay out of the weeds of some of the details. But I think one of the most impressive things to me was that audio that Raheem...
It's powerful.
Put up
just play
yesterday.
Just tweet it. The president should just tweet it. Tweet the audio.
Yep. Let people.
You know what Pennsylvania can understand? Because I'm from there. I should have been up there deer hunting the last couple weekends. But you know what you can understand? You're patriotic people. Remember the movie Deer Hunter when those guys were beating De Niro? That's the team that Joe Biden is working for. He is working for the enemies of our country.
Bob Alinsky is a Pennsylvanian. He was a Penn State wrestler. He's a Democrat, and they managed to offend him. They accused him of Russian disinformation.
Jack Maxey didn't get a deer, but he got a scalp. Okay, we're going to return.
By the way, I want to
bring in another poll. Another poll's coming in, Posobiec.
I want to tell the audience, I'm going to auction off that very Where's Hunter hat that's behind you. I'm going to auction that off, signed by everyone in the war room for charity. We're going to give the money to the Tunnel
But I want to give a
shout
out to Hunter Biden. If Hunter Biden will sign the Where's Hunter's hat, we'll give, in his name, we'll give all the money to charity. Yeah. Okay? Can we do that? Can we track down Hunter?
We'll get him.
Okay, we'll get Hunter. Hunter signed the
charities he's associated to.
Give him a call.
Unbelievable.
Strange.
Okay.
Like why he'd be there.
We're going to come back next hour. We got Matthew Tierman and Jack Posobiec, the all Polish team here on the hunt for the Biden compromise.
And we've got Sam Faddis too.